I'm just glad he's paying me because Mike is just an...
Rolling.
What? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, it's time for your weekly Fix the Funny. Can I get another one of these? I'm going to need this. I'm about to do this shit. So I'm okay, I swallowed it. So grab a cocktail, take those pants off, and treat yourself to the sexy bald man that makes you tingle in your special place. Woo! I'm wrong! Got my mind on my money, my money on my mind, bitch! I'm house announcer Chet Jackson, and it's time for the Me, Mikeself and I show with Mike Bettencourt! Are we done? Yes.
Me, Mikeself and I. It's me, Mikeself and I.
Yacht! Yacht! Yeah! Strike first, no mercy. What? If you haven't been watching Cobra Kai, you need to be watching Cobra Kai because it moved to Netflix and you're quarantined and there's nothing to do. So watch Cobra Kai. If you haven't, please do. If you have, isn't it a great show? Isn't it I know it was out on YouTube and everyone that watched it on YouTube first, like, I watched it on YouTube first and everybody's now watching it. Yeah, because we're not going to pay to watch it on YouTube. We're going to pay to watch it on Netflix. And if you've seen it, oh my God. Who's your favorite character? I want to know right now. Who is your favorite character on Cobra Kai? I'll wait. You know who my favorite character is? It's not Johnny. It's not Danny LaRusso. It's John Creasy. Oh. You got a problem with that? The perfect villain. And I love villains in movies and TV shows. He just, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it. But if you have, you know what I'm talking about. And he's a jerk. And I love him because I want to be like that when I'm that age. You got a problem with that? Just he's like this whole time. You got a problem with that? Is that what that is? Anyways, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have another exciting episode 125 here on Me, Mikeself and I. I'm your host, Mike Bettencourt, and we have a very, very exciting guest. I've known him for many years. He's a comedian. He's an actor. He's a radio host. He's an author. The list goes on and on. Ward Anderson is here. He's waiting in the green room, and it's late for him. I know it's 8 o'clock right here, but it's almost midnight because he's in Canada, and he's a nice person. He's allowing me to talk to him this late at night. So hang in there, Ward. We got a couple things. He's waiting in the green room. He's chilling. He's waiting. Anyways, so what's this say? Right here, new movies coming out. I asked my oldest daughter, I asked her, hey, why don't you write something and then I'll talk about it? She's like, okay, here you go. I'm like, what do you want me to talk about? She's like, talk about the new movies. So I'm not going to, disappoint her. So we're going to talk about the new movies that are being released right now. We have The Devil All the Time, Dune. What do you guys think about Dune? Are you guys excited for the remake of the exact same movie? I think so. What about Mulan? Is anyone excited about the exact same movie? No? Okay. Anybody? Is there? I haven't seen this, and I'm surprised that I haven't, but I need to. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Please, if you're listening, watching it, if you've seen it, please tell me if it's good or not. I don't care. It probably is. So let's move along, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Ruth Ginsburg. Oh my God, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Why did I say Ginsburg? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Wow, what a woman! I'm not gonna take a moment of silence. I'm not gonna feel bad because that woman lived a life, ladies and gentlemen. She was, and is. Her legacy is tough as nails, and I think all of us need to learn from that, from this person. She held on. She's like, I'm not going to leave until it's the new president. And she held on. She held on. She was hanging on. And you know what? She was close. If she died on the election, that would have been great. But she didn't. And what I've learned from her and what every woman needs to learn from her is all of us need to be tough like her and work hard like her. That's for sure. I am nobody. I have a podcast at 8 o'clock at night on a Thursday. I'm glad you're here, but I'm nobody compared to her. How am I going to say that I'm a badass? I'm a badass because I have a podcast. I like to make people laugh. Yeah, but are you Ruth Bader Ginsburg? No. Then shut up. You're right. That's what we're going to say from right now. Okay. Another thing. I know. Every week, if you haven't been watching this, every single week, there's been a feud between my impression of Hank Hill and my impression of Nick Nolte, and they've been fighting at each other's throats, neck to neck. One says something one week, another says something next week, and another says something this week. Well, this week I'm taking a week off from Nick Nolte and Hank Hill. Why, Mike? Why would you do that? Because right now I'm going to show you my new impression video. I have a series on YouTube called Mike's Impression. The first video was me as Liam Neeson from Taken. The second video was me as Nick Nolte from Tropic Thunder. And now I'm going to introduce to you the world premiere of me as Macho Man Randy Savage. So after this, we're not going to take a break. After this, we're going to go straight to introducing Ward because I know he's tired and it's late and he's a trooper and hanging in there. So here is the world premiere of my impression of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ladies and gentlemen, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to gather around. It's reading time. Come on, kids. All right, you two, gather around. Sit down. I said, sit down. Good. Are you ready for the greatest book of all time? Huh? It's The Napping House by Audrey Wood. Illustrated by Don Wood. Yeah. Let's begin. There is a house. A napping house. Where everyone is sleeping. Yeah. Sleeping quiet. And in that house there is a bed. A cozy bed. In a napping house. Where everyone is sleeping. Yeah. And on that bed there is a granny. A snoring granny. On a cozy bed. In a napping house. Where everyone is sleeping. Yeah. You love granny. Yeah. And on that granny there is a child, a dreaming child, on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house. Everyone is sleeping, yeah. And on that child there is a dog, a dozing dog and a dreaming child on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house. Where everyone is sleeping, yeah. And on that dog there is a cat. A snoozing cat on a dozing dog and a dreaming child on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house. Everybody's sleeping night. And on that cat there is a mouse. A slumbering mouse on a snoozing cat on a dozing dog and a dreaming child on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house. Where everybody is sleeping, yeah. Elizabeth, keep quiet, I'm reading. And on that mouse there is a flea. Can it be? A wakeful flea on a slumbering mouse on a snoozing cat on a dozing dog and a dreaming child on a snoring granny in a cozy bed on a napping house where everyone is sleeping. Yeah, what's gonna happen to that flea? Macho Man's gonna look at that flea in the eye and say, "Hey, flea, get out of here!" A wakeful flea who bites the mouse. Ow! Who scares the cat. Meow! Who claws the dog out that hurts the back? Who does an elbow drop from the heavens above and thumps the child? Yeah. Who bumps the granny? Who breaks the bed in a napping house where no one now is sleeping? Oh, yeah. Wakey, wakey. Yeah. Eggs and bakey. Yeah. I said wake up. It's time for school. Ooh, yeah. Keep going, let's go.
All right. Yeah. Lori says, cannot hear this thing. Can you guys hear me? Can anyone hear me? Ward, can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, you can hear me. Perfect. I don't know what happened. It's technology and it's a pandemic. So people can hear me now. Maybe it was the video. You know what? The YouTube is so weird when you promote videos and stuff. It's just really weird sometimes. So, and Matthew Robinson says Bill and Ted Face the Music is a great ending to the trilogy. Recommend it. Boom. When Matthew Robinson says watch a movie, you watch the movie. Okay, so the video now, yes. Now you can hear me, or you can't hear the sound now? Can you? Okay. Anyways, it's live. What are you going to do? All right, let's move it on. You like my Macho Man shirt? Oh, yeah. My Macho Man, Mike Betancourt. Yeah. Dancing around. Yeah. Okay. Anyways. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce to you my favorite funny comedian. He's a good friend of mine. But before we bring him up, we're going to show a little clip of his, and then we're going to bring him up, and it's going to be an awesome time. He's such a great guy, super talented. And this is from one of his specials. Here it is.
Getting old sneaks up on you out of nowhere. You blink and you're middle aged. I know it. And it's on the inside you get old. It's on the inside you get old first. I know this looks good. Got it. I don't want your pity. I don't want your pity. But it's true, man. It'll happen out of nowhere. I turned 40. A week later, I sneezed and shit my pants. That's it. That is God's way of telling you the best years are behind you, my friends. No warning. Wasn't feeling bad. Didn't have Indian food for lunch. Just talking to a friend, you know. Hey, dude, I'm thinking about getting out of town for the weekend. No. There's no way that I did. I did. I woke up yesterday, I had hair in my ear. What the fuck? Why? Why? My entire life, it takes me forever to grow a beard. I can't grow hair on my chest to save my life. Woke up yesterday, for some reason, hair in my ear. Was that Mother Nature going like, well, this is when they would throw him out of the cave and make him go and hunt for the saber-toothed tiger, and he would have to protect himself, and the elements would be there too. Like what? When I say hair in my ear, I don't mean fuzzy little spots. I mean one goddamn hair 4 inches long coming right out of the middle of it. I took tweezers and I pulled it and this cheek went, it hurt. The things that change as you realize that middle age hits you out of nowhere. You look good, but it's on the inside, things change. Things that used to be fun, like masturbation. I see some of you are younger than me. Oh man, to be 25 again. Like, do you remember in your 20s when your sex drive was amazing and you always walked around with an erection with an elbow? Yeah. When you're in your 20s, your sex drive is like a prize fighter that was supposed to take a fall in the third round in a fixed bout, right? And you're like, stay down! Stay down! You're gonna ruin everything! And then you hit your 40s and your sex drive becomes a World War I biplane coming back from battle. Just and you're rooting for it, like, you're gonna get there, you can do this! You got it!
All right. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? He is an author. He's a comedian. He's an actor. He's a radio host. He is my friend. He is your friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ward Anderson.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
And thank you. Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Good to see you, man. Long time no see, my friend. How you been? Thank you for staying up late for me, man. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's not really that late. It's about almost 11:30. I would still be up now, so it's okay.
Okay. Okay, I don't feel that guilty. But
No.
how's Canada?
I won't be up terribly like much later than this, but I'm up for now.
Nice.
Canada is lovely. It's my favorite time of year. It's fall is my favorite time of year, and it's right around. It's just kicking in now. We had kind of a warm week, but it wasn't humid. It was a nice mild. It's been a nice mildly warm week, but it's coming into that perfect autumn, that crisp autumn time in Toronto that I love. So,
what's it like in Canada right now? Looking down at America right right now, does it feel good to be free? Does it feel good not to be free in Canada? Does it feel, because we have to sing Trump every night here in America? We have to sing our Trump song.
We see him every night here as well. I mean,
but there's Canada, a big distance.
There's a difference, but as goes America, so goes Canada. The two aren't really so removed. And for your viewers who don't know, I'm American, so I've been in Canada now for 15 years. I'm what they call Americanadian. I'm dual, but I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. So I'm constantly having to pay attention to what goes on in America because I'm American. I mean, I still pay taxes there. I still own property there. I still have family there. This is my home now, and I'm Canadian now, but I'm still very much American as well, and it's still very much part of my life. And every single day, it's the first thing I do. First I get up and I pee, and because I am in my 40s now.
Yeah, but you got a full head of hair, man. You're good. Look at this. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's 30s hair right there. That is 30s hair. No split ends. No receding hairline. It's golden, man. It's golden.
Yeah, and my eyebrows grow faster than anything. It's the weirdest thing. I just trim my eyebrows, and that's why I'm looking at them, because I'm a little uneven. But that grows, and my ear. I made that joke in the stand-up special about ear hair. I never had ear hair, and then I hit my 40s, and now I've got to actually trim. I have an ear and nose hair trimmer, and I actually have to use that. I don't know when that happened. I don't know why. I don't know what. But all of a sudden, hair in my ear, and not just in my ear, but like on the back. Do you get them on the back of your ears?
Dude, ever since my hairline went like this, it went everywhere else.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to say real quick to your viewers moving forward, I don't know why. Maybe it's my audio on this side, but the clip from my comedy special you played sounded like there was no laughter. Am I the only person that thought there was like no laughter in that?
I heard the laughter.
Oh, okay.
I heard laughter.
On this side, it sounded like a couple of chuckles, as if I was in like it sounded like a COVID-19 show. That the whole place was like
an outdoor. How's everybody doing?
Well, it sounded like a social distance audience. That it was that was done in a theater with a packed theater. Mm-hmm. So if you watch it on TV, everybody, I just want you to know you will hear laughter. I was watching that.
Lori Russo says all was good, so she enjoyed it.
Oh, good, because I was watching it going, oh my God, there's no laughter there whatsoever. Hey, Lori Russo. Hey, I don't know who she is.
She's a longtime listener to me, Mikeself and I. Same thing with Matt Robinson. Matt Robinson, huge fan of the show, watches it religiously. Good guy.
Well, anyway, so that's what I heard. I heard it in the comedy special that way. But I heard no laughter on this end. But anyway, I am. So yes, I am Americanadian, and first thing I do in the morning is I open the news and I read and I see what the hell is happening this time today or whatever.
We're so used to it.
You also know when you're not just getting older, but you know when you're getting older and you just can't deal with politics and bad news and stress the way you used to, because I actually don't read the news or anything like that after around 8 o'clock at night. After around 8 o'clock at night, I shut off any information that I possibly can. I unfortunately get sucked in a lot of times, and I wind up on social media and I find stuff out way too late. Can I curse here? I can curse here, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I was going to say, I find shit out like, unfortunately like that. But lately I've found I sleep better if around 8 o'clock I shut it off and it's all pleasure reading or television or
Nice.
music or something like that. I can't do the news anymore right up till.
So
then.
what are Canadians saying about America right now during this whole ordeal?
Well, I think there's a misconception. I think people think that Canadians are all these polite, liberal, left-wing sweetie pies, with our universal health care and our politeness and our, oh, I'm sorry and all that. But Canadians aren't terribly different from Americans, I mean, that's kind of hard to say because I tell people all the time they're actually very, very different from Americans, and they are. But just like Americans, there are conservative Canadians who like Trump. There are plenty of Canadians who support Trump. I would say it's a smaller percentage of Canadians than it is Americans, but I haven't seen the actual numbers, so I don't know. But, Canada has its conservatives. I will say that Canadian conservatism is still generally different from American conservatism. There are some Trump-like conservatives in Canada. I will not tell you that there aren't. There are. But the Conservative Party in Canada most Canadians tend to be what Americans would consider to be socially liberal, right? That doesn't mean they're socially liberal, but Americans would consider Canadians to be socially liberal, right? So a lot of the issues that still get raised in the U.S. don't get raised here, in that respect. So even the conservative Canadians, you don't have to worry about that. There's no real religion in politics. That's a big no-no in Canadian politics typically. For instance, it seems like in America, to get elected to higher office, you need to proclaim your faith in some kind of religion.
Right.
In Canada, a good way to not get elected is to invoke faith or religion in your speeches or in your politics.
Wow.
Not saying you can't say that you're, a proud Christian or a proud Catholic or a proud Muslim or something. It's not that, but trying to invoke it as part of your platform or in your speech or something like that.
So do the job first and then faith as part of your job, not the other way around.
It doesn't fly. It really doesn't
awesome.
fly.
That's a good way because, you want to get hired for the right job and not hired for the right faith to do the job. I think that's great.
Well, you know what it is? The best way to describe it, I think, I heard it once when I first moved here, and I agree with it now, having been here for 15 years, almost 15 years. It's that Canadians are just as religious as Americans are, right? And it's a very similar percentage as well. The percentages are very similar as far as people of faith and what their faiths are and everything like that. But the thing is that Canadians really don't like their religion and their government because they don't want government in their religion. And that's really what it comes down to. I think a lot of people will hear this about Canadians not being very religious or whatever, or not having religion in their politics. And they'll think that, Canadians aren't religious, and that's not true. It's just that Canadians don't like the government in their religion, and they don't want religion in their government. And that's why they like to keep the two separate. And Canadians are very much I guess the easiest way to say it, in my opinion, I'm sure there's someone out there listening to this now or in the future from Canada who will say I'm wrong. So this is all my anecdotal observation, I should say. But Canadians, more than Americans, are less gossipy. It's less of a busybody kind of society.
Oh my God, that right there is just a breath of fresh air. You just go walk into some place and they talk to you in your face and they won't talk shit behind your back.
No, I'm not saying they won't do that. I'm not saying they won't.
Oh, okay.
It's like an old joke. People say Canadians are so polite, and they say when a Canadian is being polite to you, it's because they're busy judging you at the time. but it's much more of a, when it comes to politics and it comes to these personal issues and social issues and religion and things like that, Canadians on average, more than Americans, tend to be more of a mind your own business kind of society. People don't really inject themselves into other people's religion and faith and things like that. I'm not saying it never happens, because it does. You do get a bit more of that in Quebec. In the province of Quebec, there's been conflict there between secularists and Muslims in Quebec. There's often clashes there, and with the religious, with certain Christian groups and things like that. But in general, Canadians keep their religion pretty personal, pretty private. It doesn't get into politics here really much at all.
It's good. Matthew Robinson just said, keep separation of church and state. Good going, Canada. And then Lori Russo just said that, so they're ruled by law and not politics or religion. What?
Oh no!
How is that possible?
Canadians are ruled by politics. Don't be fooled by that. There's still plenty of that. I'm doing this because I took a shower before we did this, because I didn't realize it was a video.
I always wanted the cool hair, man. You got the cool hair. I always wanted that.
You think so? It's soaking wet. And looks
even
nasty.
like that. Just going like that one time. Dude, that's such cool hair, dude. I've always wanted that. Oh man, it's
I think that. Sorry, my nose itches. Does that mean something when your nose itches?
Canada's talking about you.
No, it means next time you spend the $10 and get the good stuff.
Gotcha.
There's plenty of politics. There's plenty, and there's partisanship here as well. Don't be fooled. There's liberal versus conservative and left versus right, and people do the same thing. And there are Canadians that will say libtard and things like that. You'll get that here too, and you'll get liberals that'll call the conservatives fascists. But in general, it's tamer. It's really tamer. And I can tell you this: the divide is not nearly as bad. It is not. Oh no, in
America, it's like it's separated big time. You can just feel the tension.
I can tell you this, and this will baffle a lot of people, even some Canadians. Now, a lot of Canadians do not feel the way I'm about to say. What I'm about to say, I'm speaking only for myself. But there are conservative. I've been very, very liberal my entire life. I'm as liberal as they come. I've been a starving artist my entire life. I've been a creative person. I've worked in arts and entertainment my entire life. I'm just as liberal as they come. And yet here in Canada, there's more than one conservative politician that I like. That, I haven't voted for, but I wouldn't despise it if they got into office, right? Or there's been some conservatives who have won office that I've been like, yeah, that's okay. He's all right. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's not bad, right? I've rarely felt anger and despair or misery from the election of a conservative.
Right, but that's how it's supposed to be when you're voting for someone.
Here in my province, right?
But that's how it's supposed to be when you're voting for someone. You're supposed to vote for the right person for the right job, even though you don't believe on their politics 100%. You still got to believe that they're going to do the right job for your country and stuff.
Well, you know what? And it's probably because I'm American. Because I think if you were to ask, say, my wife, born and raised here in Canada, she'll tell you she doesn't agree, right? She probably would disagree and go, oh, no, I don't like that guy at all or whatever. But she's growing up thinking that this is bad. She thinks, come
on down to America. Yeah. We'll show you bad. Hold my beer.
Yeah, well, exactly. So my wife thinks the divide in Canada right now is horrible, right? Oh. And to me, I go, yeah, it's not that bad, right? But
you guys having riots and looting right now?
We've had some violent protests. There's been some of that up here. Absolutely.
What's really violent and people throwing stuff and going crazy and really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's been some. Not like in the States, but there's been some.
I'm sorry, I got to switch because I feel like this is turning into a very
by all means.
Yeah. Because I don't want to get, because we hear this all the time on both sides. So let's shift gears. I've known. I'm sorry. Hold on. Lori Russo says, "Too bad. I love the idea of nonpartisan and respecting others' life as they see fit in a peaceful collaboration. Canada has appeared to me that perspective. Interesting. That's cool.
Well, no, it's a wonderful country. I'm very happy to call it my home,
That's good.
and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. Knock on wood, and I'll be here as long as they'll have me.
That's
So
awesome.
I do love it here very much.
It's folks. I don't know if we got a chance to talk about this, but I've known Ward for a very long time. When he was headlining at Laughs Unlimited, I was opening for him, and then I began to feature for him. And dude,
And now you headline your own shows.
There you go. Headline the podcast. That's what it is. Oh, is Canada after you? Do they just see what happens when you talk about Canada? They come after you. If they knock on the door, like, hey, knock it off.
I thought I heard one of my kids.
Okay.
No,
so let's talk. I'm sorry.
Headline comedy. I said you headline your own comedy shows, and you're great. I forgot until watching you just a little while ago. I keep forgetting what a great impressionist you are. I love watching you do those impressions. It's one of the things I've always loved about your act is you're very animated, and it's hard it's hard to look away. And I love that. You command the stage, you really command attention. I love your expressions, how animated you are, and so great with the impressions. A lot of impressionists are they're always kind of essentially doing a over the top parody of whomever they're doing, but I find your impressions are very like an homage. You know what I mean? They're pretty spot on, and it's so impressive you can do that.
Thank you. Well, I take a lot of pride in my impressions because I want to give value to it. I don't want to do what you see on YouTube is here's my impression of 47 different impressions with one line that they say. I wanted to really give depth, and I really wanted to work on their acting tips. I really want to get into the character and show, the acting as well. And, that's where you started, right? You started out in acting, right?
I did. I've been on stage since I was 6.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So no, you're not afraid of the stage at all.
No, I'm really not. Yeah, I've been performing since I was a kid. So I didn't do stand up. I know that a lot of comedians will talk about how they snuck into comedy clubs at 16 and started then, or they did, the talent show at their school or whatever. But I didn't get to start doing stand up until I was 18.
Okay.
So I was a freshman at University of Georgia, Athens, Georgia, and I did a set with a young comedians group there. There was a UGA Young Comedians Club, and we did shows around campus and around town. And several of the guys from that group went on to be pros, and I was one of them. But I started when I was 18.
Wow.
So what did you? So I'm trying to think of who. So Kostaki Economopoulos is a popular comedian out there in California, and he was in the group. Chris Edgerly is one of the most popular currently working cartoon voice actors, and he was in the group as well. He's a real pop. I don't think he does stand-up anymore, but he's done just a ton of cartoon voices, and many that many famous ones.
Which ones?
Well, I know he's been Spider-Man for several projects.
Oh my God, that's cool.
Yeah. I think he did, I want to say Over the Hedge, and
I've seen that movie. Great movie. I saw it with my kids.
Several of the famous ones, several of the big, theatrical animated films he's done and video games and things like that. Phil Perrier is out there still, and he was, I don't know if he was the head writer. I think he may have been the head writer. But Arsenio Hall had a talk show again recently that was like for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like the head writer for that, or one of the writers. I don't know if he was the head writer. He was on that recently. So several of us wound up going into the biz, and but that's where I started. So, but I didn't. I did it on the side for many years. When I say I started doing stand up at 18, I was really shitty. And I did it off and on as a hobby for years and years, but it wasn't until I was probably 28, 29 that I started to get a little work, right?
Nice.
And,
So what did you like about stage theater versus stand-up? What did you like more about theater?
I mean, well, for one thing, stand-up can be this thing that can be such an ego boost, and it can be so powerful, and it can be so
it'd be dangerous too with that ego boost.
Yeah, the ego boost, but also the control. You know, the show is yours, the script is yours, the direction is yours. Go where you want to take it. Be your own boss. Be your own. You know, for that time you're on stage, you're in control.
Very selfish art form, that's for sure.
Totally, absolutely. So that part I love, and
we're saying all these ego stuff. We're saying it's true. It's ego. It's selfish. We love it,
but it's true, right?
We love it. It is, man. And I'm not lying. Yeah, I agree.
So, but the it is amazing like that, right? And then when you get off stage, if you've had an amazing set and you've just killed on stage, when you come off stage, people love you. Right. They fell in love with that guy on stage, right? The women want to sleep with that dude that they just saw on stage, right? The men, they want to hang out with and sleep with that dude that they just saw on stage, right? And so that's an amazing feeling, right? But acting, you know, when you're doing theater or something like that, a play, let's say, or a musical or whatever, people still adore you. It's just, it's in a different way, right? They adore what you just did and who you just portrayed or whatever, you know? It's a different thing. It's stand-up feels like it's all you, you know? And that's a hard rush to top, right? Now, at the same time, with stand-up, if it doesn't go well,
you run and hide.
And you're the one that gets all the heat, the bad heat, and you get all the blame, and everything sucks, right? And on top of that, a weird thing about stand-up that I've never understood, I've never quite gotten it, but maybe you've noticed this, but when you don't do well, or I shouldn't say when you don't do well, or you bomb, it could just be that if you did a show and someone in the audience didn't like your act, right? People take it really personally.
Yeah.
Right? They take it really personally when you didn't make them laugh. And this is one thing, I hate it when people say things like, well, you know, everyone's so easily offended these days. That's not true. It's not true. We actually have never lived in a more relaxed time than we do now. If you go back 50, 60 years ago, you couldn't say pregnant on television.
Yeah, Lenny Bruce, look what happened to him.
Well, so when people tell me like, oh man, people are so easily offended these days, I go, no, man. People used to lose their minds if you could see a woman's knees when she wore a dress. We are not too easily offended. But more than anything, the reason I say that is because I've been on stage my entire life, and I've done stand-up comedy for, 20-something years, and I can tell you that people have always gotten easily offended. There's always been people who are easily offended.
I think the reason why, like, you can have like offensive material as a stage actor, and you can have the exact same offensive material as a comic. I think the reason why is because people, you're talking to them. You're not having the fourth wall. So you're having this conversation, and they feel it. They feel the connection, and they're going to feel that offensive. And they're like, he's talking directly to me. He's saying this joke directly to me. And I'm offended, and I get that. And some newer comics are like, well, why are you so offended? Because you're talking to the audience. You're not talking to the audience when you're doing stage acting. You're talking at them or around them, but you're not like, hey, look at this guy in the front row. How you doing? Blah blah blah. You're not doing that.
That's a good point.
And
that's definitely part of it. But people have always gotten easily offended. That's why when people say nowadays, like, oh my God, everyone's so easily offended these days, I go, oh. I can go back 20 years ago and tell you a story about me doing a dirty joke on stage and somebody losing their minds over it and screaming and yelling at management at the club and all this stuff that I go, that wasn't recently. And it wasn't, liberals and snowflakes or whatever. Whenever people say that, oh, it's all these liberals to get offended, I go, that is not true, because I'm as liberal as they come. And I can tell you that people have gotten way offended with me at times throughout my career as a stand-up. And, a couple times it's been people that were more, left-wing, more liberal or whatever, but there's been a lot of right-wing people angry at me for something, or just like 20 years ago, I remember doing stand-up, people just getting offended at hearing the word fuck too much. Now it's not as big a deal, but 20 years ago, I mean, you remember when you started out, we used to get all these notes from booking agents that we weren't allowed to say fuck, or we could only say it. Or my favorite was we were only allowed to say it 3 times per show, or something like that. And strictly, you couldn't say cunt. Like there were so many comedy clubs that I worked at that were like, you can say fuck, but you can't say cunt. Don't ever say cunt. A club in North Carolina, specifically, I came off stage one night and the club owner / manager called me into his office and said, "You are not allowed to say God damn it on my stage."
What?
Yeah. And you know when that was? 10 years ago. That wasn't even that long ago. That was 10 years ago. And so when people say like, "Oh, everyone's so easily offended these days," people have always been easily offended.
Matthew Robinson's good point, Ward. I'm totally offended. Well, you know when you're talking about this, one of my fondest memories of you when you were headlining at Last one time, it was second show. So all the good stories start out with second show. And the crowd was dead. They just weren't having it all night. They just weren't having it. I don't think if you remember this, but I went up, the feature went up, they just weren't having it. You went up and they were just like, every joke was just flatline throughout the whole night. Not your fault. No one else. They're just like this. And then you straight up said, "You know what? Fuck this." And you got off stage and you got on the front row chairs and you stood up and you looked at everybody. "Can everyone see me now? Can everyone feel me now?" And people were like shocked. And then you said, he's like, "If you guys don't start laughing, I swear to God, I'm going to pull out my sock and it's going to be a sock puppet right now. I will take this sock off my foot and it's going to be a sock puppet." And there was this couple in the front row on your left and they weren't laughing. He's like, "Oh, you're still going to get offended." And you were doing your jokes and hitting them hard and they still were, arms crossed. You're like, "Okay, you've done it. You this is it." So you took off your sock and you're like, "Okay, here it is. Here's the sock puppet. Are you offended now?" Dude, I wish I had that on tape, man. I wish I recorded that. That was the funniest shit I have ever seen. I still remember it to this day.
And I did the rest of the show as a puppet show. I did the rest of the show as the sock. Yeah.
And it crushed. It crushed. You just said, threw caution to the wind. You said, "Screw it. All right, you guys. This is you were talking like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your entire life." And you're like, "Oh, my sock stinks." And you just kept going on. It was so funny, man. I learned so much that night just watching you, not giving a rat's ass if the audience gave a shit or not. It was so funny.
I remember that, and I remember it because I continued to do that for years to come. I did that several more times when I would get frustrated. I would pull the sock out.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good because you get them out of that element and you just shake them up. Yeah. And they're not used, like I said, they're not used to like stage acting. And then they see a comic take off their sock and go off the cuff. A smelly, sweaty sock.
I think also that was just for me. There's certain things.
Oh, totally. It was totally for you because you didn't give a shit at that point.
No.
It's second show. It's late night, and everyone's tired, and it's a Saturday night, and you crush the first show, and then the second show is completely different. The first show is like packed to the brim. You can just say hello, and they go, "Ah," and then the second show is just completely 180 from that one. So, oh man, I wish. One of my best memories of you, dude. Seriously, it's so funny. So look at you, Matt Robinson says, "Sock puppet, awesome." So after comedy, man, you and I went our separate ways, and just like every other comic, we just lose touch. So what did you do after that? I remember seeing you. You have 2 kids now, right?
Mm-hmm. 2 daughters, yeah.
2 daughters, nice, man. What are their ages?
One's about to be 7, and one just turned 3.
Nice, congratulations. I'm in the hen house too. It's great to be outnumbered, but it takes a real man to hang in tough in the hen
how are your girls? I've still got a photo of me and Sophie,
Grayson.
I don't want Grace.
Yeah,
you're okay. Your older one. I have a photo of. I don't know why I thought her name was Sophie.
Dude, 12 and 9 now.
She's 12 now.
Yeah, man, wow. Completely crazy. So you decided to get off the road, right, and just settle in Canada, and then you went on to your talk show?
Well,
Is that how that?
Well, I stayed on the road after I came to Canada for many
Okay.
years. I only retired from comedy this past year, you
Right.
know, and the biggest reason was I just kind of I was done. I had said everything I wanted to say. I had a comedy special come out, and then that was just kind of I was ready to go and to move on to other things. You know, I never really intended for stand up to be my entire career or for it to be the thing I was going to do forever.
Hmm.
I enjoyed doing it, but and I loved it for many of the years I did it. But then I began to realize there were all these other things I wanted to do that I was missing out on because I was always on tour.
It's
I was
so
always
easy to
gone.
miss those opportunities too.
Yeah.
So easy.
And so what happened was I was on the road a lot, and then I got the radio show with Sirius XM, which I got in 2013, the Ward and Al show with Allison Dorr, who's a stand-up comedian, or she was a comedian here in Toronto. She's now she's still in radio, talk radio, and she also owns a record label, a comedy record label that focuses on comedy from women and minorities, and called Howl and Roar Records. It's a great comedy label, great cause. But we started the Ward and Al show together, and we were at Sirius XM for about 5 years. We did the show for about 5 years, and at Sirius XM for about four and three quarters, whatever. And when that happened, that was a good time for me to kind of scale it back. So I went from touring about 40 to 49 weeks a year to I scaled it back to where I was only doing about 10 weeks a year when I was at Sirius XM. And then when the Sirius XM show ended in November 2017, I went back on the road for part of 2018 as I was getting other projects going and stuff like that. But the idea was never to go like back full time or whatever. And then just this past year, it's kind of strange. I only had, for 2020, I had something like 4 weeks of gigs that I was contractually obligated to do. And I was finishing up those dates right as the pandemic hit. But that was it. I decided that I wasn't taking any more comedy gigs. And, you know, and never say never. I'm not saying I'm quit for good or something like that, but it was just time to focus on other things. I think I had said everything I wanted to say as a comedian. And between you and me and, you know, the ether and the internet out there, I think I was a good comic. I don't ever think that I was ever an exceptional writer as a comedian or a real necessarily original comic or anything like that. I don't think I sucked or anything like that. I mean, I worked consistently for a couple of decades, but
You headlined for many, many years. Yeah, I think you were a pretty damn good comic, my friend. You're doing an hour and a night for 15, 20 plus years. I think you're a pretty good comic, my friend.
well, you know what? I think I got the job done. And I think people like the fact that I got the job done. I'm just saying I don't know that I ever did anything groundbreaking, right?
Have you ever thought about doing something? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I'd say after a while, some guys are cool with that. And they just love to work as a stand-up comic and just work and be on the road and do that forever. And God bless them. They love doing that. And that's great. I just wasn't one of those guys. And when it hit me that I didn't think that I had anything necessarily groundbreaking to say, or I wasn't even interested in doing that. You know, I was interested in just saying what I thought was funny. Right. And although that got me work, once I kind of realized that, well, this is probably the level I'm going to always be at, I started to go, you know, I don't know that I ever wanted to do that forever. And I wanted to pursue other things. My problem is, in all honesty, I want to do everything. I don't want to do one thing. I want to do everything. And so being on the road all the time doing stand-up kept me from doing everything, which is what I wanted.
But being on the road also pigeonholes you just to be on the road, and you're just living in that, you know, purgatory life. Just on the road, hotel, comic.
Yeah.
Hit the stage, on the road, hotel. It's the same thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Stand-up comedy is an amazing art form. We both love it. That's why we dedicated our lives to it. But we both see other potential in our lives, and we both see that we got to do something bigger for our family. Is what you did, because like you were telling me. I mean, you're an accomplished author as well. You have 2 books written. We want to talk about that before we move on to the last thing I was going to talk about.
Yeah, sure. I have a
Why don't you tell me
couple of
about-
novels.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of novels out, but they've been out since 2014 and 2015, but they're still available. You can get them at bookstores everywhere, but now that no one goes to bookstores anymore, you can get them online, get them at Amazon and wherever books are sold online. One's called I'll Be Here All Week, and one is called All That's Left, and they're both love stories, right? But they're not comedies, neither one of them, even though the first one, I'll Be Here All Week, is about a comedian. They're not comedies, either of them. The nicest review I got, probably the nicest compliment I got two, actually. And both of the two great reviews and compliments I got was I was compared to Nick Hornby, if you know who Nick Hornby is. He's a British author who's written books like About a Boy, which was made into a movie with Hugh Grant, and a series for a while. High Fidelity. He wrote High Fidelity, which was a movie with John Cusack, and is now a series as well. He's an author, a British author who writes books. Oh, he wrote Fever Pitch, a book called Fever Pitch, which Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore made into a movie. So he's known to write these books that are kind of love stories, starring, featuring kind of unlikable men who kind of turn their lives around, and that's what both of my books were about. And I consider, and I'm a big Nick Hornby fan. As I sit here talking to you, there's a Nick Hornby book just right above me on my bookshelf right there. So that was a really great compliment. I got that from two different. USA Today said that, and Sharp Magazine in Canada said that. It's a men's magazine here in Canada, and that was really nice. That was really cool. So I know that that's also something. Of all the things I've done, that was the one that made my mom the proudest. My mom always loved my writing, and my mom always hoped that I would one day become, a writer, an author, a writer. And I've written magazine articles and reviews and things like that, and blogs or whatnot. But when I had the novels come out, that was a big deal. When I signed that book deal, I know that was more than anything, the best part of that was making my mom so happy that her son became a published author. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Got some great comments coming up. Mike Shin, he's a younger comic. He says, inspiring word for us future road dogs.
Keep talking.
Great. Yeah. And then we got Lori Russo. She says, me too. As an actress, dancer, singer, director, teacher, etc., I just never have wanted to be pigeonholed. It's true. So true. You gotta find out your talents. What are you drinking, by the way? Ooh, you know what, dude? I'm gonna get a drink right now. Do you want to talk to the audience, and I'll get something real quick, and I'll come right back.
But
here's Ward Anderson.
Being pigeonholed is actually, that's a true thing, man. It can totally happen. The other thing about it was, I wasn't a comedian that was, I have a TV special. That's true, but that was kind of my swan song. That was right at the end of my stand-up comedy career, or at least for now. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to be permanent or not, but that comedy special came at the end of things. But I was never a TV comic, right? So I was a road dog. I was a road comic, and although I loved that and it was great, and I think it made me probably a great stage performer or whatnot. The problem with being on the road all the time is that you do get pigeonholed as a road comic, and that can be very hard when you're trying to move into television and other things like that. I remember when I first came off the road, not doing talk radio, but when I was trying to get back into trying to act or whatever, going out and trying to interview with agents, and how many of them, despite the fact that I had a talk radio show for 5 years, I had my own talk show on TV here in Canada for a few seasons. And I had, and it was a mini series talk show. It was deliberately a limited series talk show, right? And you can see it on YouTube, by the way. It's called Offstage with Ward Anderson, and it's more that's more Meet the Press kind of a show than it is. It's not the Tonight Show. It's more like Meet the Press. I would say it's kind of like Politically Incorrect or Bill Maher's. Real Time with Bill Maher. It's more like that, but it wasn't political talk. It was entertainment talk, but talking about the business of show business, But even after doing those and having the books and all that stuff, I couldn't believe how many agents wouldn't take me on because they said, no, you've just played yourself for the past 15, 20 years.
Right.
And it took a while for me to get an acting agent again. And here I thought all these things would have led right into it. You hear about the comedian that gets that great set on the Tonight Show or that great HBO special. And next thing you know, he's getting movie offers like crazy. And I found it funny. I couldn't even get an agent. That they were like, no, all you've been is you. And it was like, and luckily that turned around. I did get an agent that signed me and I immediately got work, and then that got me noticed, and and it was great. But like, it's a weird thing that with stand-up comedy, it is very easy to get, I don't want to say trapped, because it's not a there's no regret. I have no regret there. I have no regrets. But if you want to do a lot of things, stand-up comedy can be difficult. You can get trapped in just being a comedian.
Have you ever seen the movie? Career. You ever seen the movie Road Hard with Adam Carolla?
I have. I interviewed Adam for that movie.
Great movie. If anyone
had my Sirius XM show.
Hold on, let me. First, I'm gonna have a drink with you. Got monkey shoulder. Got some whiskey. Yeah,
I like monkey shoulder.
Yeah,
I really don't drink. I really don't drink much anymore.
If anyone else has a drink, go ahead and drink right now. We're gonna have a cheers to Ward and his wonderful words.
No. Here's to Mike.
Cheers to you, buddy. Boom.
I don't
cheers
really
to everybody
drink that
else.
much anymore. That was the other thing, is I had to get off the road, because also it's just so easy to just drink and party and sleep all day and blah blah blah. And I had to also cut all that back. You start getting older. How old are you now? 39?
I'm 39. Yeah. And you got the 25-year-old hair, man. Just.
But I mean, it's kind of weird when I'm doing something like this. If I'm doing a podcast or a vodcast or something, just for some reason, I've got to have my e-cigar and I've got to have my whiskey. I
love it. I think it's very classy. I love it. Cheers to you again.
It gives me that. It just gives me that feeling of hanging in the green room talking.
You got to do this too.
I only have a little bit of my ice sphere left. My ice cube. Not cube. I'm sorry. My ice sphere.
Ice sphere.
But what was I saying? Oh, we were talking about.
Don't be pigeonholed, and just Road Hard. The good thing about Road Hard. The good lesson about Road Hard. Jay Moore's character. It was kind of like, if anyone hasn't seen Road Hard, it's kind of like lightly based off of The Man Show. And Adam Carolla went his separate way after the show, and he went back to stand up. And Jay Moore's character got the late night show and just catapulted from there. And he finally met up with Adam Carolla, and he said something that really struck a chord. And it made me realize that, especially with COVID, because I know there's a lot of comics that are freaking out because they missed a stage and they want that stage time, and they're missing the interaction because they're just getting into that groove, and then everything shuts down. So if you get a chance, if you're watching it, watch Road Hard, because what Jay Moore said was really struck a chord. He said stand-up was supposed to be the stepping stone to where you need to go. It gives you the skills that you needed to have. And that's so true. It gives you the skills that you need to have to be tough, to write, to produce, to act, to do all that, and then move on to the next thing. We all would love to pack out theaters and everything.
That's why when people ask me about what I'm doing, and I say that I've retired from stand-up for the time being, or as far as I know, when people ask about that, people have said like, "Oh, were you not working, or was it?" I go, "No, I was still consistently working. I was still, and when I wanted to work, I had work. It wasn't that I had always planned on it being a stepping stone, right? I had always planned on it being just that. It's funny that Jay Moore says that in the movie, because that's how I planned on it being, and then it just kind of became the career, and I did it for years." I want to say I did it for years longer than I wanted to, because I still continue to enjoy it. It wasn't like I hated it and I kept doing it, but it just, I had wanted to move on to other things, and I began to realize that I was on tour so much I couldn't, and that's why I had to finally just let it go. My home club is right. My home club, Absolute Comedy, is right, I don't know, 4 blocks from my door, right? So I go in there all the time, and I don't anymore because no one does. But But if I want to, I go in there and I work and I go up on stage if I want to. And sometimes I just go in and hang out. So I don't hate comedy or comedians or
Right.
stand up anymore, but it was just time to focus on other things.
I think my biggest.
I think Road Hard was okay. But if you really want to understand what it's like to be a comedian on the road and everything, you need to read I'll Be Here All Week
Yes.
by Ward Anderson, a wonderful novel from Kensington Publishing.
Boom.
But Road Hard was okay. My problem with so many of these movies, from that one to Funny People with Adam Sandler to all these movies, and I actually wrote I'll Be Here All Week. I decided to write that novel after watching Funny People with Adam Sandler because the movie made me angry, not because it's necessarily a terrible movie, but I said, I'm tired of seeing movies about bitter, rich, and famous comedians. Right. And Road Hard was one of those where, and I think I said this to Adam Carolla when I interviewed him, that I said, my problem with a lot of these stories is that I think some comedians go off and they make a lot of money and they become very, rich and famous or whatever. And then maybe they have kind of I'm not saying they fall, or they fall down the ladder or whatever. Maybe they have kind of a lull or they don't quite go where they thought they were going or whatever. And there's this movie like Road Hard where I'm supposed to feel sorry for the guy, where I go, he's still very wealthy in that movie. That guy is still, like in one of the opening scenes, he's in an argument with the comedy club manager because the agreed upon fee isn't what they agreed upon. And he says something like, we agreed on $9,000. I'm like, $9,000?
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
And it's supposed to be for like 2 days. He got
right.
$9,000. Where I go, I never made $9,000 for 2 days, let alone not a week. Like what the? And I was watching this going, I'm supposed to look at this. And of course, a guy that's used to making $30,000, $50,000 a week,
right,
is suddenly making $10,000 a week. He looks at that as, whoa, where did my life go? But for those of us that never got to $5,000 a week or whatever, we go, get the fuck out of here. I don't feel sorry for this guy.
That's a good point.
And that was
Lloyd Russo said, you can become trapped no matter what medium you are, agents, managers, etc. Producers are guided by money to sell ability, period. The new platform is producing yourself, period. That's true. And which is why I'm bringing up to the next point. Ward has hunkered down during the pandemic and he started his own cartoon production company. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I want to talk about before we show a little clip about what made you get to this style of comedy, and tell us all about it before we show a clip of your.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's
great. By the way,
kind of. Thank you very much, buddy. It's kind of it's a funny story because it's not even just that I'm doing, but I'm still acting and I'm taking some work in front of the camera and everything. But I also just decided it was kind of weird. We talked about being on stage and having that control as a comedian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I began to realize that so much of my career has been me waiting for someone else to give me an opportunity and to
cut off right when you said that. Say it again. One more time, please.
I said so much of my career seems to have been me waiting for someone else to give me an opportunity.
Yes.
Or not even give me an opportunity so much as I go and pitch something to someone and I'm waiting for them to approve it, and then hopefully it gets made or it gets produced or whatever. And I finally started to realize, like a lot of people go, I want to direct, I want to get into directing. And I did a little directing and it's fine, but I realized that that's not really what I want to do. What I really like doing is producing, because I like to put the puzzle pieces together. I like to make projects come together. I like to make things work. And in so many ways, as a self-booked comedian, entertainer for so many years, that's what I was doing. I was producing my own show, producing my own act, producing my career. So I wrote the books, but then I also, a friend of mine who does want to direct, who is a director, a phenomenal director, Mark Morgenstern, he and I hooked up because we both realized that we were both creative, but in similar ways, but also different ways. And so we teamed, but we were having minimal success on apart, right? Minimal success on our own. So we teamed up, and now we are writing partners, and we write screenplays together. And as part of the deal, when we make deals with our screenplays, he gets to direct or work in some kind of a director capacity. If he's not director, then he gets to second unit direct or assistant direct or whatever, and I get to produce. And so over the past couple of years, we've had one of our movies produced, which was on the Lifetime Network last year.
Nice.
And we just had 4 more movies of scripts of ours optioned this year alone.
Congratulations.
And, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's really cool. Now, of course, when movies are optioned, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get made. It just means that someone wants to make them, and so they essentially they give you a little cash, and they hold on to your script for a determined amount of time, usually about a year, and hopefully they get the movie made. And then if the movie gets made, then you get paid, right? So we have 4 movies that have been optioned that are in various stages of hopefully getting produced. While all this was going on, and Mark and I were teaming up and writing things together, I started secretly, without anyone knowing about it, including my wife at first, taking animation courses online, because I've always loved cartoons and I've always loved animation, and I've always been fascinated by it. And I do voiceover work here in Toronto. There's a pizza chain here in Canada called Boston Pizza. And I know, no Boston in Canada, but we have Boston Pizza. And I'm the voice for Boston Pizza, like for all their commercials up here. Oh yes, and it's been amazing. That's what's paid my rent for the past 2 years.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
So I'm the voice of. This,
do you have an accent?
No, the voice isn't even my voice. It's like I actually can't do it. I'm not allowed to do it.
Okay.
So, but if you Google, or if you go to YouTube and you put in Boston Pizza commercial, you can see it.
Go to
you
YouTube
can, can play it if you want to play it, but I'm actually not allowed to. I'm not allowed to do it.
What's it called?
Especially
Boston
not on
Pizza?
camera. Boston Pizza commercial. I can't, especially on camera. I'm not actually allowed to do the voice.
Gotcha.
But it's not my exact voice. Can you pull it up and play it?
Yes, I can.
Oh, exciting. Do it.
Dude, this is what's great about this. And by the way, everyone, thank you so much for sticking around. This has been a great podcast episode.
I'm having a blast.
Honestly.
Thanks for having me.
This has been so much fun, just catching up and just learning and just really soaking it all in. Is this what's for dinner? 30 seconds spot?
No.
Boston Pizza commercial 1989?
No. You'd have to go 2019. Put in 2019. That's when you'll definitely. Right. Or just go to Boston Pizza Canada. That one right there in the middle. Go down.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, go to there. And then go to Pierogi Pizza.
Where's that at? Oh, right here.
Right. Yeah, go to that one.
Voici la légendaire pizza.
Oh, that's the French version.
de
That's not
Boston
me.
Pizza. Garnie
Dude,
de
you
fromage.
are great at disguising your voice, my friend.
T'en veux une?
Okay, go up to the top. Go to the top right. Okay, there to the top right.
This one?
Yeah, go that one. That's me.
Okay.
Boston Pizza's legendary spicy pierogi pizza with cactus cut potatoes, bacon, cheddar cheese, and a dollop of sour cream. If that's still not pierogi enough for you, you could always fold it in half. The spicy pierogi, only at Boston Pizza.
Oh, that's so good. It sounds like you want to have a beer and call me an asshole.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds.
Yeah.
Boston pierogi pizza, dickhead. Hope you're done with it.
They've been wonderful. It's a wonderful gig, and I've done 20 commercials for them. It's been,
that's great.
It's been great. Well, so anyway, because of the voices and stuff like that, and I started doing some cartoon auditions. But I've always loved. Who doesn't love cartoons? We grew up with cartoons, right? And
seriously,
I've always wanted to do it. And when I was a kid, I was a cartoonist, and not really, but I did some cartooning and like a couple of my sketches as a kid when I was like 10. Got in some youth publications or whatever. And there was a while, I think, when I was 9 to 12, that my parents probably would have thought I would have been a cartoonist. Never took any art lessons or anything like that, but I loved to doodle and I loved to make my own little cartoons. And then, performing really took hold, and that was the thing I wound up doing throughout, my youth, obviously. but it's something I've always loved, despite the fact I'm not really an artist or an illustrator. And so I decided when I had this time last year that I was going to take these animation classes and start learning it, because especially as a kid, when I was growing up, to be an animator or even a cartoonist was also expensive. It involved, buying all these pens and inks and a table at this angle and all of these things. And if you wanted to be an animator, you had to have a light box and you had to know how to draw on cells and you had to get Bristol board and all these things. And I was notorious for having hobbies that I picked up and put down and never went back to, right? So, my parents didn't want to go spending all this money on art supplies when I had a guitar that I still to this day only know 2 chords with, right? So it was just something that kind of went away as I got older, but I still loved cartoons. I still loved animation. And as someone who just loves film and television, obviously I love any kind of film or TV medium, any kind of thing like that, right? Genre, I guess. And so I started taking animation courses online and started studying. And nowadays you don't need to spend all that money. You can have an iPad Pro and you can do great illustrations and you can make animation with your computer, and not having to do 1,000 drawings and sketches. And it's kind of funny. I started taking the classes and I was very lucky. My instructors were all very complimentary and they said, you're not necessarily a great illustrator or artist, but you do understand timing and you do understand, the principles of animation. And I have to credit stand-up comedy for that.
Of course.
I think that stand-up comedy gave me an idea of the pacing of animation and the timing of cartoons, when to cut, when to, how to stretch things out, how to shorten them, things like that. And you and I were both comedians who are big on expression, and that's a big part of animation and cartooning is expression. And it was something that I wanted to do. I didn't think I was going to draw cartoons. I wanted to learn how to produce and direct them. So I started taking classes so that I could learn everything about it, right? And then next thing you know, I'm drawing and I'm making cartoons. And then I had a final exam, and my final exam was the cartoon that you have. And I didn't think it was going to happen, but I did this cartoon. I thought it was pretty cool. It was a music video. I made it for a jazz artist here in Canada who's a friend of mine. And it was the craziest thing. I did this as like my final exam for my animation classes, and it took off. And people loved it. My instructors called it like one of the best first animations they had seen. They were very complimentary. And and it's a weird thing. I have imposter syndrome because I said 20 years of stand-up comedy, I feel like no one ever noticed me. I did this cartoon, and then all of a sudden people started offering me work and people asking, what else can I do? And do I want to collaborate? And I had, animation websites contact me wanting to talk to me. And I think it's not because it's so brilliantly drawn. It is not. But I think because I work in this retro kind of throwback nostalgia to Hanna-Barbera and UPA and Jay Ward, like Rocky and Bullwinkle. I think because I deliberately chose to work in this retro limited animation
That's
style.
what people love. That's what they love.
I think the nostalgia factor made people notice it because a lot of it's very computerized. But I illustrated it and cut it and edited it in a way that it doesn't look like it's computerized. It looks like an old cartoon. I think that's why people like it. So
the great thing about it too,
I'm trying to say this without making it sound like I'm all like full of myself, because I'm not. I feel like I made a cute cartoon and I'm excited and I love this and I love that I'm doing this now and people want to work with me. But I have to think that it's not so much that I'm great or a genius at this as much as I tapped into people's nostalgia and they like that. I think that's what it is.
Well, I think before we show it, I think the great thing about this is it's not forced nostalgia. You can really feel the flow of this animation. So here we go. We're going to show it right now.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Here it is.
There he is.
The summer wind came blowing in from across the sea. It lingered there to touch your hair and walk with me. All summer long we sang a song, and then we strolled that golden sand. Two sweethearts and the summer wind, like painted kites, those days and nights they went flying by. The world was new beneath the blue umbrella sky. Then softer than a piper man, one day it called to you. I lost you to the summer wind. The autumn wind and the winter winds, they have come and gone. And still the days, those lonely days, they go on and on. And guess who sighs his lullabies through nights that never end? My fickle friend, the summer wind. Warm summer wind, the summer wind, the summer wind.
Oh man, so good, so
Thank you,
good,
buddy.
dude.
Oh, thanks,
It's booty boo 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 boo, baby. It's got that nice nostalgic feel. Like I said, it's not forced because you know where that came from, and it basically, you know what this is, man. Your cartoon. It's your whole career on film. It's your acting, it's comedy, it's writing, it's radio, it's everything combined into this beautiful, colorful throwback cartoon, man. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's really sweet of you to say. I appreciate it. It's and it's funny. It's because to me that's an unfinished project, right? Like I was on a deadline, and every time I watch it, there's part of me that is proud, and there's part of me that's like, oh, there's so much that's wrong with that that I had to do. But yeah, it's great, and that's what I'm doing now, amongst other things. But my project right now is Podimation. So my company is called Podimation Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And we are here in Toronto. I'll show you this. It just came in the mail today. This goes in my office.
Oh, wow. Wow. Congratulations. Dude, that looks so cool.
So,
oh my God, dude.
The logo, this appears in front of every one of our cartoons, every one of our products.
Yeah.
I actually do have a business partner that handles the sales side and the audio side. So it's two companies under one roof. It's a company called The Pod Plant, which is a podcasting studio and production company, and Podimation, which handles the cartoon, the visual part of the business. And so we produce short form animation, like what you saw, music videos, and we're going to be producing short form cartoons like what we grew up on. So if you look back to, even before you and I were born, we're talking about going back to the 40s or whatever, when there was Tom and Jerry cartoons in the theaters, and obviously Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes and all of that. We're going back to doing that. We're going to be making, short animation that's between literally as short as 1 minute to 7 minutes. Music videos, commercials. I've recently taken a job. I'm going to be doing the opening credit sequence for a movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's
Congratulations.
like a comedy adventure caper, and so I'm doing a Pink Panther like opening credits sequence. Remember the Pink Panther movies had the
Right.
cartoon?
Right.
So I'm doing that for a comedy adventure movie that's out in 2021, and we are also putting together a pilot for a kids show. So I'm very excited. Yeah, it's great. But you know what? You have to look at it this way too. The pandemic is still going on, and this is going to be going on for a while. People want entertainment. They want content, and animation can be produced in isolation, and nobody has to be in the same room with each other. And there's so much you can do with it. You can do drama, and you can do comedy, and you can do music, and you can do these things. And remember I said I want to do everything. And so that's what we're doing. I like the idea of bringing back short form cartoons, 7-minute cartoons, 5-minute cartoons. But then, and I like the idea of doing music videos. I'm working on a music video now. I sent you. I'm doing a Scooby-Doo homage for a band here in Canada.
So cool.
And that's the other thing that we try to do. We don't necessarily do it with every video, but we do try to kind of keep it in that nostalgic kind of, UPA, Jay Ward. Jay Ward was, Rocky and Bullwinkle. So
right.
do you think of that style of animation or Hanna-Barbera?
It's a good fresh take for 2020. It's a good fresh take for 2020. Absolutely.
Well, what we didn't want to do is do what everyone else is doing. So we're not doing 3D animation.
Right.
Not yet, at least. But we're not doing 3D animation.
Until you get a big fat paycheck and they're like, oh, we're going to 3D animation.
Well, never say never, but
right.
I'm also still a student, right? I'm still learning all these things. I'm still learning animation. And all the although I still do my own cartoons and I do my own animating, my own illustrating, we actually are bringing on actual animators and illustrators with this business. So there will be other styles. There will be other types of animation styles and art styles or whatever. So, but we are still trying to kind of keep it grounded in that nostalgia, and kind of, so that's one reason we're not getting to the 3D. For one thing, I'm still learning 2D. I'm still learning the flat animation, right?
I miss that though. I really miss the 2D
and so do I.
Cartoons.
And so do I, and so do a lot of people. And I read recently in some Variety or the Hollywood Reporter or something like that there's this resurgence in 2D flat animation that people are really excited about. So, it's we're kind of keeping that around. I'm not saying I'll never do 3D or whatnot, but my kids, your kids probably love that kind of stuff. My kids love a lot of the Disney shows now are very computerized and all.
Well, my kids really,
my style.
My kids love the 3D, but they also love 2D, like The Princess Frog. They love that movie. Such a great flat 2D cartoon. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because you get more color out of 2D versus 3D. It just pops in. It's more vivid whenever I see a 2D animation.
Do you know what I think? I think it's just what we were just talking about. Why did audiences like you and me on stage? Right? There's probably plenty of comedians that are smarter than both of us. Definitely smarter than you. But there's probably lots of comedians out there that are smarter.
I already saw
and brilliant. But you and I are cartoon characters on stage. We're all about we're about our expressions and this overabundance and this kind of and I think that the attraction to 2D and flat animation is that. And I think that I'm not saying that 3D doesn't have that, but I think that less so, right? And I think there's something about the absurdity and the caricatureness of classic flat 2D animation that people get attracted to, because it sounds crazy, but 3D animation looks so real.
Yeah,
but
it's a good separation. It takes us away from real life.
But I think that, but 3D animation looks so real and it's so impressive and so amazing. But I think a lot of people love watching 2D animation because it isn't real, because it doesn't look real, because it looks ridiculous, because it is absurd, right?
Matthew Robinson says, I love the 60s throwback video you did for Matt Dust. You can see Rock and Bullwinkle influence and style. It's a cute and funny story. It's awesome.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, pal. And like I said, That was our thing.
What's that?
And George
When I'm
says
done.
he thinks it's nostalgia, and that's also the thing. You know what? We're in a period right now. I've pitched a lot of TV shows, not just animated, and some of these TV shows I've pitched have involved celebrities from the past and revisiting them and things like that. And the thing I said is we're in a period right now I like to call permanent nostalgia. It may not actually be permanent, but for right now, people really do love looking back on the past and being nostalgic. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the 50s or the 60s or the 70s or it's all of it. It's people are nostalgic for different eras, but we're in this point of permanent nostalgia. Look at all these TV shows that are having reboots that have been off the air for 20 years.
Yeah. Keeps you away from 2020. That's what it is.
What is that too?
So you got
have I kept you way too long? I'm
no,
sorry.
dude. No. This has been great. This has been a great show. My youngest child is like, "Can I get my plug back so I can plug it in?" I'm like, "Okay, in a minute. Hold on," because I'm using one of her plugs for my light and stuff. She's like, I really need to plug in my phone, Dad. I really need to. So you got any advice for any young comic that just getting into stand up or just getting into acting that don't have a path or anything yet?
This is really difficult for me to say. Okay, because I'm one of those people that always encourages people to follow their dreams. I really do believe in that. And I'm a dreamer, man. It's what I've done. I've followed my dreams my entire life, right? And don't get me wrong, I've eaten a lot of shit along the way. I've struggled. You know that I lived in my car. I didn't even have a home. I was homeless for a couple of years, and I lived in my car, just going from gig to gig to gig, where the only place I lived in was a hotel when I had a gig, or on friends' couches or whatever, in the lean years when I was really trying to first get ahead. I don't regret that because I also didn't have a mortgage or any rent to pay on a place that I was never in anyway. When I say I was homeless, I don't mean I was living on the streets. I should say I was houseless. But I didn't have a residence for a long time. And so I believe in following your dreams. I absolutely believe that. But I'm going to be brutally honest when I say I don't know that there is a stand-up comedy industry right now, and I don't know when it's going to be back. So the hard thing for me to encourage people to go pursuing that is that live entertainment is not coming back for at least a year. It's now, late September back in 63. Oh no, it was December. It's late September 2020. You know what? It could be we look back at this in a few months and laugh that I said this, but I don't think live entertainment and stand-up comedy in general is going to be back for at least a year, if not longer. It's just my wife works with she works in PR, and her job involves getting information about COVID-19 to the public. So when my wife comes to me optimistic and goes, everything's going to be good, then I go, okay. But when my wife comes to me and goes, yeah, nobody's performing for a year, I go, so I just don't know. Because I can say this, I mean, comedy clubs are closed now, and even the ones that are open are having to do these shows with 6 feet between each person, and the comedian is across the room with a moat of emptiness between them and whatever audience there is and everything. I don't know what the future of stand-up comedy is going to be, and I think a lot of comedy clubs are going to go out of business. And I think that what's going to happen is a lot of professional but not famous comedians are going to get knocked down, and a lot of those road comics that are headliners are going to become middle acts
Features,
again.
Yeah.
And a lot of those hobbyists are done. And I said this, and it's brutally honest, and it's terrible, but a lot of people go, oh, you retired from comedy. And I go, I think I retired whether I want to or not, because I think COVID-19 forced retirement on a lot of comedians and live entertainers in general. I mean, I know a lot of comedians whose entire source of income was being a cruise ship comic. They're done. I mean, I don't know I don't know anyone that wants to book a cruise. If cruise ships booked right now, do you know anyone that wants to go on a cruise right now? I mean,
none, zero.
And I'm
Zero right now.
I'm sad. I'm sad about that, and I feel terrible for those people. I feel bad for those people. But for my live entertainment friends, and not just them. I've got friends that are booking agents for music acts, and I have musician friends that have no clue. Matt Dusk, that guy I did that video for, by the way, has a Frank Sinatra tribute album, which is out
nice.
now. Matt is one of my best friends, and Matt had an entire. He's a very popular artist, a jazz pop artist. He's got platinum albums in several countries, and he's a very, very, very talented singer. And he said himself, he's canceled everything, and he doesn't have a single live performance date until late 2021. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's really weird. So when people say to me, like, what's your advice? I say, learn to do voices, learn to write, and, learn to direct, learn to make your own projects, and learn how to produce something that you can do with a small cast or small group. Learn to animate, do these things, because we're still going to need content, but this pandemic's not going away now. And I don't know what the future of live entertainment is going to be. My other fear is that when these comedy clubs open back up again, that they're going to have to book really famous comedians to get people in the door, because I don't know how soon audiences are going to come back. And I just realized that I've talked for 5 minutes straight, and I'm sorry.
No, it's great, man, because you're living proof. You hunkered down during this whole pandemic and you created a cartoon. And this is the first step into the next step of your life and your chapter of what you're doing right now. So this is great. This is great advice. And I wish you nothing but the best success.
I don't know that it's great advice. It's just a hunch. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying stand-up comedy is dead. It's not. Of course it'll come back. I just don't know when, and I don't know to what capacity, to what degree. There was a point when when you and I met, there seemed to be a comedy club there seemed to be 3 of them in every city across America.
Mm-hmm.
And just last year, it wasn't like that.
Right.
And yet at the same time, if you look at Netflix, Netflix has literally 200 comedy specials on it. So in some places, comedy is doing extremely well. And yet there was a time when it seemed that there was a comedy club on every corner, and it hasn't been like that for a while. So I never know where stand-up comedy is going.
But it also sounds like right now, comics, actors, everybody that's in the entertainment business right now is a good time to create your own corporation, create your own entity, hunker down and produce your own stuff, so you don't have to wait for the opportunities to give to. We got to audition for you. Jump in, go do it. You're saying, and what you're creating is create your own opportunities and do it for yourself and be your own producer. You don't have to wait for a producer to audition you or anything like that.
Do you know what I think might see a comeback during this time? Is scripted audio podcasts, like old radio shows.
Yeah.
So like Jack Benny and Red Skelton, or if you go back to Milton Berle, all these scripted comedy shows that was actually sitcoms before there was television, right?
Right.
I would not be surprised. And you're already seeing that, by the way. Podimation, that started because we decided, before I did this cartoon, we decided to do motion comics and illustrated audio. So what we first decided we would do is we would take children's stories and we would put basic animation to it. Like essentially you'd be looking at a page of a book, but then like say, pictures, but then there'd be just like one little butterfly going across the page. Things like that for kids, right?
Right.
I think you're going to see more of that. And I would tell comedians right now during this, don't necessarily just do a podcast where you're doing your stand-up or something like that, but find a way to do something like that, like old radio, where you can do these sitcoms and people can record their voices from different places.
Yeah.
And then you can broadcast that. And people are doing that. Marvel Marvel Studios has a great Wolverine podcast that you can listen to, and
There's a Wolverine podcast? I didn't know that.
It is so good. It is so good.
I'm
and
in.
It's and dude,
Episode 1, bub.
They've just invested a ton of money in making a bunch of those, and it's a Wolverine adventure with full sound effects, soundtrack, voice actors, all of that, but it's in your ears, and it's. I think you're going to see more of that. I really do.
Well, that's awesome. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for Ward before I get going? And
I'm sorry, I got whiskey.
No, but
I'm just babbling. And
no, this has been fantastic. And everyone that's watching right now, thank you for sticking around and watching this. I really appreciate this. We're like at an hour and 43 right now. This has been a great hour and 43,
I know.
my friend.
I was all like, we're just going to talk for like a half hour, dude. Right?
Yeah. And I was worried about it because you're like, oh, it's late. But no, this has been fantastic. Well, dude, since I don't have any other comments or concerns, I always like to leave my guests with a wonderful send-off. And the send-off I like to send is, I wish you nothing but success. And the only way to grant success is with a Sam Elliott prayer. Are you ready for the Sam Elliott prayer?
Wait, I have to say something first. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I want you to have the last word because it's your show. I want to say this.
You can have the last word.
No. And this is from the heart. This is not the whiskey talking, because I've actually only had a little whiskey. I haven't had a lot, but I want to say this. I've worked with a lot of comedians, and I have liked probably 95% of the comedians I work with, that I've worked with, except you. No, I've liked about 95% of the comedians I've worked with, and a lot of people don't believe this when they meet me or even when they see my show or whatever. I'm actually a very positive person, and I actually really do wish the best for most people that I've encountered in my life. But I want to say this. You are a very, very talented man. And
thank you.
If you want it, then show business and entertainment will be lucrative for you. I really do believe that. You're a very, very talented man. And I think that you have so much to show people that people haven't seen yet. And I've always thought that about you. And that's why we've stayed in touch for years, even if we haven't worked together in many years. That's why we always stay in touch. That's why I always talk to you. Do not stop doing what you do, because you are very, very good at what you do. And some people come in and they do it and they are good at it, but it's a hobby or it's something. You clearly have a passion for what you do. You clearly have a brain for what you do. And I think it's only a matter of time before more people see the talent that you have. Just keep doing what you do. I really do believe in you, dude. And if I can ever help you, I promise you I will. I don't know that I can, but if I can, I totally believe in you. And if I can help you, I will.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. And with that wonderful note, you're going to love the Sam Elliott prayer. And now, a prayer from Sam Elliott.
Dear Heavenly Father, give me the strength, for I don't have any patience for stupidity anymore. Everywhere I go, I see someone doing something stupid, and I just want to smack them across the head, but I can't, dear Father, for you are the dude of this universe. Dear Lord, we're in a pandemic, and I'm starting to lose my cool. All I want to do is sit in my leather chair, smoke a Marlboro Red, and drink a beer. Coors, America's beer. Lone Star Barbecue. Amen.
And with that blessing, sir. Oh, did he just leave? I was going to. Oh, my goodness. Anyways. All right, folks. I'm going to get out of here. But thank you so much. You weren't supposed to leave at the Sam Elliott prayer. What are you doing? Anyways, Ward, if you're watching this, thank you so much. Everyone that's been watching this, thank you very much for being a part of this show. It's been wonderful. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you next.
Me, Mikeself and I.
One more time for Ward Anderson, ladies and gentlemen.
It's me, Mikeself and I.
Keep an eye on his movies, his shows, Podimation.
Mikeself and I.
And we will see you
It's me, Mikeself and I.